As an outcome of the Paris summit to support Sudan, participating countries will provide Sudan with a $1.5 billion bridge loan to facilitate the clearance, promote debt relief and boost investments in the African country. The pledges made by member countries, including the United States, Britain and Saudi Arabia, allow the IMF to cover the arrears and repay the bridge loan and would help broader economic reforms. One of the Paris conference's goals is also to drum up interest in investment projects worth billions of dollars in energy, mining, infrastructure and agriculture would be on offer. Enticing international banks after financial sector reforms is another key objective. As Sudan is emerging from decades of economic sanctions, a transitional government was appointed under a military-civilian power-sharing deal. The $1.5 billion bridge loan is trying to pull the country out of a deep economic crisis, with inflation at over 300% and shortages of basic goods. Key recent reforms under an IMF monitoring program include cutting fuel subsidies and sharply devaluing the currency. Sudan recently cleared arrears to the World Bank and the African Development Bank with bridge loans from Western states is a way to move forward to a decision point that would unlock the HIPC process in June. French President Emmanuel Macron said the reduction of Sudan's debt is a first result of these reforms, and these efforts should be consolidated both economically and politically.
Right, welcome back, and definitely one of the most important outcome of this summit was that countries that included Saudi Arabia, Britain, the US, Germany, Ireland, Austria, Sweden, Italy and the European Union joined forces to liquidate Sudan's overdue debts. But not just that, but also that Sudan was able to obtain also other $2 billion in short-term grants and the relief of the Sudanese debt. That was one important issue. Another important issue was that the Paris summit itself has gathered the leaders or the European leaders of the G7, the G20, the International Monetary Fund, and many other financial institutions. From your point of view, how would that not just help Sudan, but rather show the whole African economic situation and be in favor of Africa?
Of course, the conference was very significant. It has very good outcomes for Sudan and for the African region as a whole. We saw the African Development Bank, Britain, Sweden and Ireland. They gave a bridging loan to Sudan for $125 million to pay off the debt to the African Bank. Also, we saw the US earlier passing another bridging loan, $1.1 billion, to pay off the Sudanese debt to the World Bank. Actually, helping Sudan will help all of its neighbors. Because in economics there is something called it will spilling over. So if you help one country and this country's economy is working in the right direction, it will naturally help its other neighbors or create more jobs on its borders.
Yes. You mean here that boosting a country would enhance the situation of other countries. How do you view Egypt's putting Africa in the forefront of its priority files so far, and how do you view the role of Egypt in Africa?
Egypt has a very big role in Africa, and everybody can witness what President Sisi has brought Egypt back to Africa, economically, politically, socially, and not only we saw how Egypt helped Libyans, how Egypt is still helping Libyans, how Egypt is helping Sudanese, and President Sisi actually not only is helping African countries but also other Arab countries like Palestine.
Yes,
Lebanon.
But I'm just focusing on Africa, and then we'll turn to the Middle East, because
Okay.
definitely Egypt is part of both regions.
Of course.
Please.
So if we concentrate on Africa, we can speak about Libya, we can speak about Sudan, and other. Egypt right now is constructing a project in Tanzania, a very important project in Tanzania, to create a hydroelectric power. So Egypt is building schools, hospitals. Egypt is back in Africa, and the whole African nations can see this. And even we enhanced our relations with Tunisia. We had military drills, and President Qais Said was here in Egypt.
Actually, we're having 3 military drills
At the same time.
at the same time, all
Yes.
at a time.
Yes, so Egypt is basically strengthening all the Arab armies in Africa or elsewhere.
Yes, indeed. And this is not exactly what we will be focusing on today, but speaking about Egypt and its role in Africa, from being freeze to head of or chair of the African Union, to presenting Africa and expose its own files and propagate for the African continent at large, to the Peace and Security Council, which Egypt up till this minute is a member state in it. How do you view efforts made by Egypt in order to preserve and protect the peace and security of Africa?
As we spoke, President Sisi or Egypt, with its leader, President Sisi, is helping to preserve. First of all, if you really want to preserve security, it's not only about strengthening armies. Enhancing relations and cooperation with African countries, that in itself, and trying to end the terrorism which was going on in many Arab African countries and also in other African countries, that will really put the African nation back in the international arena. Like Sudan was put after 30 years. It was removed from the terrorism list.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
So, yeah. So Egypt, with its role helping the transition period in Sudan, managed to get out from the terrorism list, which put on it many sanctions from the U.S. for over 30 years.
An enormous burden on its shoulder.
Yes.
And up till this minute, it is really in upheaval, and it is taking the brunt of all the period during the former regime.
Yes.
Right. Returning back to another important meeting that took place in this summit, which is the summit talks between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and President Macron. And indeed, as you said respectively here, they brought about many of the files. Sudan, of course, Africa, a second file, but also a number of other Middle East important files. What were the talks? Why was President Sisi keen to discuss such files with the French president, and how do you view the French-Egyptian relations?
First of all, France has always been interested in African affairs. And we can see this significantly during the Macron era. He is trying to help Libyans with their transitional period, just like President Sisi. So yes, France is in Europe, but France has always been interested in Africa. Now France is interested in developing Africa, and Europe as a whole is interested in developing Africa, because they don't want more illegal immigrations to go to Europe.
That was another important point that was raised also.
Yes. Bringing peace to Africa, bringing development, would keep the Africans in their countries. They wouldn't try to illegally immigrate to Europe, which Europe...
You mean here creating a conducive atmosphere in the African countries in order to be able to grasp the foreign direct investments into the continent would settle down people instead of trying to illegally immigrate. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, it would create more jobs. If you have stability, then you will have, as you said, FDI pumping into the economies of the African countries. They will stay, and maybe one day many Europeans would come and live in Africa, not vice versa. President Macron and President Sisi brought up the topics of the transitional period in Libya and how to secure Libya from the interference of external powers and how to have it stable. Also, they spoke about Gaza and the vital role of Egypt in the ceasefire.
It's actually the leading role.
Yes, the leading role, but everybody now is trying to steal this role and saying that we had a big role.
We don't really need to propagate.
Yes.
This is what happened, and
Yes.
all the world has witnessed the Egyptian
Yes.
role.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
And until now, we have Egypt is monitoring the ceasefire in both territories, and everybody saw the aid going to Gaza from Egypt. Egypt opened its hospitals to receive the wounded. Egypt sent medical aid and medical workers to Gaza to help our brothers in Gaza.
I wouldn't really say that it's an aid, but rather it is.
Medical
it has
aid.
It has always been
Yes.
Egypt. So
Of
Egypt
course.
is always lending a handful of support to its brothers. Isn't this isn't this the case all the time?
Of course.
Yes, indeed. But here we spoke about Gaza. We spoke about you really meant here Libya and the foreign interference in the Libyan territories, and that was an important matter.
Yes.
That the French also is very much interested in, and we brought the Egyptian-French relations. The Egyptian-French relations has seen a kind of quantum leap
Yes.
during the past or the very recent period. How do you view how the Egyptian-French relations developed to be? What is, how do you view the future of those relations at this upcoming stage?
Yeah, as His Excellency the Ambassador said, that France has really known the importance and strength of Egypt in the region. And you feel that both presidents, as I told you, they have the same vision. They want to build. Because some people want to destroy, but those two presidents, they want to build. They want to spread peace in Africa. They have very good cooperations together. President Sisi was received very well when he was in France, not in this conference, but before. He was received so well, during which some countries were speaking about human rights. And the President Sisi went to France and he spoke about human rights, that there are the right to live. The right to live. This is human rights. The right, human rights is developing the country, creating job opportunities, making progress in the economy, making growth. This is human rights. Building.
You mean here that that human rights should be tackled from how we see it,
Yes.
from our our side,
Yes.
not from their side, because human rights has a
Yes.
lot of other aspects other than the things that they are speaking about, but the right for living.
Yes.
Yes, as you said, respectively. I have with me over the phone Ambassador Mohammed Hagazi, former assistant for Mr. Good evening to you, sir. Hello? Hello? Ambassador Hagazi? Hello, Ambassador Hagazi? Right, until they fix the technical problems, let's come back to what we were speaking about. And yes, but if I may here ask about the relations on different spheres, and I mean here the French-Egyptian relations show many axes. The strategic one, the economic one, the political one, and definitely the economic one. If we can detail or put into details the relationship and how it developed in all those spheres.
Actually, we are seeing a very good relation which is developing very strongly, as you said. We see military drills, that's when it comes to politics. We also see economic cooperation between the two countries. We saw a boost in exports and imports from both countries in and out. We see here a meeting in thoughts between the two countries, especially in African files. So the relationship between Egypt and France is growing more than ever. And President Macron received President Sisi during the cartoon problem which happened in France, and President Sisi went there, and they spoke about the freedom of expression. They spoke about the freedom of speech.
I don't think that this is exactly where it started, but it went beyond that, because we spoke about raising the issue of the human rights, and it was raised several times, in which the president has put into big brackets how we see the human rights and what has Egypt done in order to fulfill the rights of the citizens and the right for living, as you respectively said. Now, when we speak about the relationship between Egypt and France, and when we speak about Egypt being raised as a prior partner, we're speaking here about partnerships, not anymore elevating those relations. When I'm speaking here about a quantum leap, then we have seen more and more of developing relations. How do you view those relations, particularly in those 2-3 years?
As I told you, I see the relations developing very strongly between the two countries. And because French people have always been interested in Egypt and the Egyptian culture, and we are hoping to boost tourism. We are hoping to boost economic partnership following the pandemic. I prefer to speak maybe a little bit about the Kurd issue and how France could help with the Kurd.
This is exactly what I was expecting you to speak about.
Yes,
please.
Yes. So basically, both presidents spoke about the Kurd issue, and they spoke how France could help with this issue, because as Prime Minister of Sudan, Abdullah Hamdouk, he said when asked on one of the channels, the TV channels, when asked about whether or not the Kurd issue is serious, he said that the world should take President Sisi's words very seriously. when it comes, like Egypt is not threatening anyone, but he was saying that this issue is very serious for Egypt, for both Egypt and Sudan.
It is, but it is an
Yeah.
existential matter. But
Yeah.
you said here that how Egypt view the role that could be played by France in this particular issue.
Yeah, France could certainly help Egypt, as France has investments in so many countries. It has good relationships with so many African countries, and I really see that also France, as part of the European Union, could really help the three countries reach a legal and binding agreement in this issue.
Yes, indeed. And remains to be seen how would the outcome of the summit reflect on this upcoming stage. Mr. Tarek Refaat, journalist at the Middle East News Agency, we thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be another important debate with another colleague. Good night.